like the BAFTAs. Do you think they're worthwhile?
Yes, I think it's great. I think it's nice to see all the best people of the country come together and to applaud for us Brits. I think it's great. And I was very, very happy today because my fiance's TV series won Best Series, taking over this annum, so I'm very happy. It's always nice when there's a win in the family, you know. It makes it all so much nicer getting dressed up.
That was her, Catherine Zeta-Jones. I drink, I swear, I like Yes, that's how she once described her life. And from the outside, it truly seemed that way. She had it all: beauty, fame, a celebrated career, and a husband people called the perfect man. Her face was everywhere, praised as one of the most iconic in the world. It looked like her dreams had come true. What more could she ask for? Maybe just a little peace. But peace was the one thing her life refused to give. The life she built started to fall apart with all the kinds of scandals and betrayals she had never asked for. But how did it all end up like this? Did she really deserve it? Or was fame the real devil here? Before the red carpets, flashing lights, and paparazzi madness, Catherine Zeta-Jones was just a little girl from Swansea, South Wales. Born on September 25, 1969, to David Jones, who owned a sweet factory, and Patricia, a seamstress, Catherine didn't exactly grow up in the Hollywood spotlight. She got her name from her grandmother, Zeta-Jones, yes, named after a ship her great-grandfather once sailed on, and Catherine Fair. She was the middle child, with two brothers, an older one, David, and a younger one, Lyndon, who later dipped into the world of film production. Catherine grew up in the Mumbles district of Swansea, a small, cozy place by the sea. But she wasn't your typical quiet kid. She was hyper and wild. Her mom figured she needed a way to burn off all that energy. So at just 4 years old, Catherine was packed off to dance school. And that was it. That was the beginning. The family didn't come from money. In fact, they lived a pretty modest life. Until, out of sheer luck, they won £100,000 in a bingo game. But that one win changed everything. It gave them the freedom to support Catherine's growing dreams, ballet lessons, dance classes, stage performances. They saw the fire in her and didn't hold her back. Catherine was already doing school plays and joining dance troupes. Her voice was incredible. She won a talent competition singing a Shirley Bassey song, and from that point on, the local papers couldn't stop talking about her. She'd travel to London for auditions regularly, hustling hard even before she hit double digits. At just 9 years old, she landed the role of July in the West End production of Annie. And by her early teens, she was a national tap dancing champion. In 1981, she returned to Swansea to play Annie again, this time as the lead in a local production. 2 years later, she was starring as Tallulah in Bugsy Malone in the West End. Things were moving fast, so fast in fact, that by the time she was 15, Catherine had enough. She dropped out of school and moved to London full-time. She joined a touring production of The Pajama Game, and this was her life now. Constant auditions, dance rehearsals, and trying to stand out in a city filled with dreamers. Catherine once said, "I'd queue up for auditions, then change my costume or leotard and audition again. It might take me 2 tries, but I always got the job." She had the grit, and she was smart about it, and she knew exactly how to play the game. She eventually got into the arts educational schools in Chiswick, London, and did a 3-year course in musical theatre. She was serious about this. And then, in 1987, when she was just 17, something wild happened. Catherine was hired as the second understudy for the lead role in 42nd Street on the West End. Second understudy is not exactly glamorous. But then, one night, the lead actress and the first understudy were both out. Suddenly, it was Catherine's turn. She stepped into the role of Peggy Sawyer, and she crushed it. The producer was so impressed, he let her keep the part for 2 years. From there, she joined the English National Opera at the London Coliseum. By 1989, the stage had become her second home. After years of dominating the stage, Catherine Zeta-Jones took her first real step into the world of cinema in 1990. She landed the lead in 1001 Nights, directed by Philippe de Broca. It was a bold debut. She played Scheherazade, the legendary bride with 1,000 stories. The film, a whimsical take on the Persian tale, had all the makings of a fantasy hit. But instead of wowing audiences with its charm and adventure, it fizzled out. Critically and commercially, it flopped. In fact, the Daily Telegraph later claimed the only thing people remembered were the enjoyable ND scenes. But even if that stung, Catherine didn't show it. Her real breakthrough came the very next year. Not in Hollywood, but back in Britain. From 1991 to 1993, she lit up the small screen in the darling buds of May. Set in the peaceful British countryside of the 1950s, the show followed a wholesome, vibrant family. And Catherine played the eldest daughter, Mariette. She was radiant, magnetic, and utterly unforgettable. Audiences fell in love with her. The series quickly became the highest-rated show in the country. And just like that, Catherine became a household name. Literally, with 1 hour of television, my life completely changed, she said. Suddenly, she couldn't walk down the street without turning heads. The girl from Swansea had made it big, but the spotlight was a double-edged sword. The fame came fast, and so did the labels. She's just a pretty face with a good body, nothing more. That was how the British press painted her, ignoring her training, her range, and her hard-earned talent. She felt trapped in a box she never asked to be in. Roles started to blur together. She was always the gorgeous sidekick, never the star with depth. The tabloids cared more about who she was dating than what she could actually do on screen. So she made a bold move. Catherine packed her bags and left for Los Angeles. She was going to start over. There was all this fuss about who I was and wasn't dating, she later said. So I decided to move away and start again. In America, she was anonymous. No headlines and no paparazzi, just auditions. And for once, she got roles because of what she brought to the table, not what was written about her in glossy magazines. Her first taste of Hollywood came in 1996 with The Phantom, a superhero flick starring Billy Zane. It wasn't exactly Oscar material, but it was a step forward. She stood out from the cast.
Well, it's called The Phantom, and it's a film for Paramount Pictures, and we actually spanned 3 continents on it, which was extremely good fun for me.
Lots of travelling.
Lots of travelling.
So where did you go?
We started off in Los Angeles, and then we went to Thailand, and then we finished up in Australia.
Unfortunately, the movie itself didn't make waves. It barely made a ripple. Critics weren't impressed, and the box office returns were forgettable. Still, something was changing. Slowly but surely, Catherine was cracking the Hollywood code. The roles weren't groundbreaking yet, but they were getting bigger. She'd crossed oceans, dodged stereotypes, and clawed her way into a new world. And little did anyone know, her biggest moment was just around the corner. By the late 1990s, Catherine had become more than just a rising star. She was a global sensation. Her captivating beauty, timeless grace, and effortless magnetism didn't just win over moviegoers but had the media utterly obsessed. In 1998, People magazine crowned her #1 on their Most Beautiful People list. She'd make repeat appearances year after year, and in 2003, Esquire boldly declared her the most beautiful woman on the planet. Professionally, she had just conquered Hollywood with The Mask of Zorro, opposite Antonio Banderas. It was her big breakthrough. But something unexpected happened in her personal life. While she was still in this whirlwind of Hollywood, not a film role but a real-life plot twist straight out of a romance movie. This was when Michael Douglas came into the picture.
When did you meet her? What was the first date, or when did you first approach her?
I met her. I just had seen Zorro, and then I was over at the Deauville Film Festival, and I saw that the next night of the festival, Catherine was going to be there with Zorro. So I said, all right. I asked the gentleman, my publicist, I'd really like to meet her. Can you find out if I can have a drink with her?
It was 1998, and both stars were promoting their films, Catherine with Zorro, Michael with A Perfect Murder. Their worlds collided at the Deauville Film Festival in France. Michel was instantly smitten. He approached her at the bar and played it cool, charming, respectful, and slightly bold.
And I met her, you know, in the bar, and a total gentleman. And then they had to go off and do their work. And I said, you know, by chance, when you come back, if you want to have a nightcap and stuff.
Later that night, they met again, and that's when he dropped the line that could have scared anyone off.
She came back after all her work. We sat there for a little while, and I said to her after about half an hour, I'm going to be the father of your children.
Catherine, amused but unimpressed, gave him a polite goodbye. I've heard a lot about you and I've seen a lot about you. I think it's time I say goodnight. And she walked away. Douglas thought he'd blown it, but he wasn't giving up. When he heard she was off to Scotland to shoot Entrapment, he had a bouquet of roses waiting for her upon arrival. This time, his charm and charisma did work. A spark had been lit. Slowly, quietly, their love story began. On New Year's Eve, 1999, high in the snowy peaks of Aspen, Colorado, Michiel proposed. She said yes. The fairy tale was underway. In August 2000, they welcomed their first child, a son named Dylan. The couple were overjoyed. Then, just a few months later, on November 18, 2000, they sealed the deal in a breathtaking wedding at New York's iconic Plaza Hotel. It was, quite literally, the wedding of the year, a £1.5 million affair, decked out in glamour, with guests like Tom Hanks, Whoopi Goldberg, Anthony Hopkins, and Brad Pitt in attendance. Catherine stunned in a custom David Emanuel gown, and Michael's son from a previous marriage, Cameron, stood proudly as best man. The event was so high profile they signed a £1 million deal with OK magazine for exclusive photos. No other press was allowed near. It was magical, picture perfect, everything Catherine had worked for: fame, love, family, and it was finally hers. She had it all. By 2013, Michael was declared cancer-free, and though Catherine's own battle with bipolar disorder was ongoing, it no longer defined her. She had found a way to live with it, to accept that her journey would be filled with ups and downs, but that she could still find joy, success, and love. With a newfound calm in their souls and the weight of yesterday slowly lifting, they found each other again, face to face, as if the world had gently conspired to bring them back to each other. Because as with most relationships, sometimes space is all it takes. By 2014, Catherine and Michael were back together, much to the relief of their fans. It was these shared moments of vulnerability that brought them closer together. The couple reappeared at a red carpet event for the play The Library in New York, looking as united as ever. Michael later confirmed in interviews that their relationship was stronger than ever, despite the trials they'd faced. "It can't be a one-way street," he said, "but I'm crazy about her." It was clear that despite their ups and downs, the love they shared had endured the storms, and they weren't just surviving, they were thriving. By the time they celebrated their 15th wedding anniversary in 2015, their bond seemed even more solid. Catherine posted a heartfelt tribute to Michael on Instagram, writing, "Happy anniversary, dearest Michael. Loving our life together. Here's to the next 15. Michael, always the funniest, responded during an award acceptance speech, thanking Catherine for her unwavering support over the years. "I wanted to explain to Catherine that, sweetheart, this is a very exclusive club, and maybe in a few years, if you play your cards right, you may be able to join," he said with a laugh. They had come full circle. What seemed like a rough patch in their marriage was now a story of resilience and rediscovery. They were back together, stronger than ever. In 2017, Michiel and Catherine became grandparents when Michael's son Cameron welcomed his daughter Lua Izzy into the world. And yet, just as they were adjusting to this new chapter, another hurdle arrived, because life decided to not go easy on them. They had no idea what was about to come. In 2018, Douglas was accused of sexual misconduct by a former employee, Susan Brody, who claimed that Michael had made inappropriate comments and even masturbated in front of her during the late 80s. This claim sent shockwaves through the family and put Catherine in a deeply difficult position. She was a dedicated supporter of the Me Too movement, and the allegations felt like a personal betrayal, even though they were from years before she and Michael had met. Catherine admitted it was a painful moment, saying, "My children and I were profoundly devastated by those allegations, and I was torn about where my absolute morals lie." Michael, however, vehemently denied the allegations, calling them a complete fabrication. Catherine, despite the public scrutiny, stood by her husband. "There's no story here," Michael told her and the children. "Time will tell." And indeed, over time, it became clear that there was no evidence to support the claims, and the allegations were ultimately dismissed. Catherine, though visibly hurt, maintained her loyalty to her family and to Michael. "Unsubstantiated claims knock the Me Too movement back 20 years, she said, underscoring how difficult it had been for her to reconcile her personal support for the movement with the need to defend her husband. Through all of these trials, Michael's cancer, their brief separation, and the misconduct accusations, Catherine remained strong. She was a woman who stood by her family, fought for her marriage, and continued to support the man she loved. In a town where breakups are more common than coffee runs, Michael and Catherine stood the test of time. You wouldn't expect a couple with a 25-year age gap to survive the Hollywood chaos, but here they are, still in love, still laughing, and still showing the world how it's done. In 2019, just after they celebrated 18 years of marriage, Michael spilled the beans at the Golden Globes. "We celebrated our 18th anniversary recently," he said, glowing with pride. "And besides the genuine love that only continues to grow, I think the fact that we're in the same industry really helps us to understand what is going on. It was great for her to be here tonight," he added, "and to share one of those nice things where your partner totally understands what's going on." Michael remembered Catherine being pregnant with their daughter during her Chicago days, while award season buzzed around them. It's those shared memories, the highs, the celebrations, the growing family, that truly bonded them. Fast forward to 2020, right before their big 20th anniversary. Catherine revealed how they'd be celebrating. "We won't be doing any great big party," she said. "Not that I'm a big party fan anyway. It would be nice to get all our friends together in one space, but we're not doing that until we're completely out of the woods." But marriage isn't just about kisses and anniversaries. It's also about adapting to change. In May 2021, their daughter Karis graduated high school. Suddenly, Michael and Catherine were staring down a new chapter, the empty nesters. Michael opened up about it on a show. "It's scary. It really is," he admitted. "You look at each other and go, well, it's just you and me, babe." And it's true. When kids leave, the conversations shift. There's no more school talk, college prep, or daily chaos to hide behind. It's just the two of you, back to the beginning. But for Michael, that wasn't a bad thing. "We're 20 years now," he said, "so all those good years of paying attention to each other are paying off now. Now that's relationship goals." Let's jump to September 2021. It's the Emmy Awards, and Catherine's on the red carpet, glowing with pride. Not for herself, but for Michael, who was nominated for the Kominsky Method. "I always like to see my husband nominated on the red carpet," she told Karamo Brown. "I've become a very proud wife." Even after all these years, they're still each other's biggest fans. A few months later, in February 2022, the family took a trip to the Dominican Republic. Catherine shared a snapshot of Michael with their two kids, standing in front of a gorgeous waterfall. Just your casual family vacation, with a stunning tropical backdrop. And then came one of the cutest moments of the year, their shared birthday. Both Michael and Catherine were born on September 25th, and in 2022, they celebrated with a huge flower-covered cake topped with candles that read 25. Not their age, obviously, but their shared birth date. Michael posted a photo with the caption, Thank you all for the kind birthday messages. We love you all. At the Wednesday premiere in November 2022, Catherine brought her son Dylan as her date, and she couldn't help but gush about him. Well, first of all, she joked, husband Michael is very happy that this is my date. A collaboration between the two of us, the gift that keeps on giving. It's clear that for Catherine and Michael, family isn't just a part of their story, it's the whole story. Life will never be perfect, never always kind, but they had each other, and in that imperfect, ordinary love, a girl from Swansea who climbed every rung of the ladder was finally at the top. But life doesn't freeze in perfect moments, and what came next would threaten to shatter everything. Catherine and Michael Douglas's journey together has seen its fair share of highs and lows, and one of the more emotional and personal chapters came when they were expecting their second child in 2003. Catherine was pregnant while finishing filming Intolerable Cruelty. Despite the stress of her busy work schedule, she was thrilled about the news. In fact, she didn't even want to find out until the film was done, but once she did, it was all joy. Catherine said, "I came home and told Michael, and he let out a whoop." She had always imagined having more than one child, believing that Dylan, their firstborn, would benefit from having a sibling. "I didn't want Dylan to be an only child. My amazing relationship with my siblings made me realize how important that bond is," she said. Fast forward to the 2003 Academy Awards, where Catherine was pregnant with their daughter, Karis. While pregnant, she dazzled the audience by performing I Move On from Chicago alongside Queen Latifah. And, as the ultimate icing on the cake, she went on to win the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress for her role as Velma Kelly. Soon after, in April 2003, the couple welcomed their second child, daughter Karis Zeta-Douglas, born on Easter Sunday. The name Karis was a nod to Catherine's Welsh heritage, as it means love in Welsh. Everything seemed perfect, like a fairy tale life unfolding. But of course, like any real-life story, the plot was about to take a drastic turn. Just 7 years later, in September 2010, the couple's world was rocked when Michael Douglas announced his diagnosis of throat cancer. The actor, then 65 years old, had a tumor at the base of his tongue and was about to begin a painful journey of chemotherapy and radiation. "It's a fight," he said. "It really knocks you out." For Catherine, watching the man she loved endure such a harsh treatment process was heartbreaking. The hardest part is seeing his fatigue, because Michael is never tired, she explained. If there's anything Michael has, it's strength. And while Michael was enduring the physical challenges of cancer, there was another bombshell coming. In a shocking public statement, he revealed that his cancer had been caused by HPV, human papillomavirus, which he suggested was transmitted through oral sex. That's right, Douglas candidly shared with the world that his cancer had been caused by an STD, one that he claimed was the best cure for it when contracted. Understandably, this made headlines, but for Catherine it was a public moment that thrust their personal lives into an uncomfortable spotlight. The revelation was one of the factors leading to a break in their marriage. The question was not about how much she could bear, but how long. There's always a certain limit to everything, and that limit was breaking, and she was at the edge of it. Amid the high-profile whirlwind of her life in the early 2000s, Catherine, the glamorous and seemingly unshakable, faced something that many people didn't expect from someone who appeared so composed. She was battling bipolar II disorder. Behind the high-energy performances, Catherine was grappling with an illness that would change her life in ways she had never anticipated. It was during a time of immense pressure and emotional turmoil that Catherine first acknowledged her mental health struggles. The year 2010 had already been a roller coaster for her when Michael had just been diagnosed with stage 4 throat cancer. While the world waited for updates on his treatment and recovery, Catherine was quietly dealing with her own health battle. For years, she had been the image of strength, grace and composure. As a mother and wife, she had always put on a brave face. But as her husband fought for his life, Catherine found herself sinking deeper into a state of emotional and psychological turmoil. The stress of her husband's health battle, the intense media scrutiny, and the strain of juggling her own career all began to weigh heavily on her. She was starting to feel the storm within herself. Her condition, bipolar II disorder, is characterized by extreme mood swings, periods of depression followed by moments of hypomania. Unlike bipolar I, where individuals can experience full-blown manic episodes, bipolar II's more subtle highs make it harder to detect. These hypomanic periods are often marked by bursts of energy, excessive optimism, and impulsive behavior. But just beneath the surface of these euphoric states, there is an overwhelming sense of depression that can take over, leading to exhaustion, feelings of worthlessness, and even thoughts of suicide. Catherine had struggled with the disorder for some time before she finally sought help. It wasn't until the weight of everything became too much that she made the decision to open up. It was a decision that would later become a powerful moment of vulnerability and strength. As Catherine admitted that despite her outward appearance, she had been struggling for years. "I'm not the kind of person who likes to shout out my personal issues from the rooftops," Catherine explained after her diagnosis was made public. "But with my bipolar becoming public, I hope fellow sufferers will know it's completely controllable." Her openness about her condition was both courageous and transformative. It was a moment of release for her, but also a message to others who were silently battling mental health struggles. In an era where mental health still carried stigma, Catherine's willingness to share her story became a beacon of hope for many. She checked herself into a mental health facility in 2011 for treatment, deciding that she needed to take care of herself to continue being the strong mother, wife, and woman the world knew her to be. It was an act of self-care that she would later describe as a necessary step in her journey toward stability. Her treatment was not just about managing the mood swings, it was about reclaiming control over her life and learning to live with the disorder. After dealing with the stress of the past year, Catherine made the decision to check into a mental health facility for a brief stay to treat her bipolar II disorder, her publicist confirmed in a statement. It wasn't an easy decision, but it was the right one. Catherine knew she had to prioritize her well-being, both for herself and for her family. But the truth about bipolar disorder isn't always easy to grasp. It doesn't just disappear with a visit to a treatment center or a few months of therapy. As Dr. Warren Taylor, the director of the Mood Disorders Program at Vanderbilt University School of Medicine, explained, bipolar disorder can look different for everyone. It can often be mistaken for regular depression. And, like Catherine, many sufferers may not even recognize their own signs of the disorder. For Catherine, there were times when the depressive episodes were so overwhelming that she couldn't even enjoy the things she loved. There were moments when the sadness seemed inescapable, and she couldn't shake the feeling of being lost. Then, there were other times when the energy would surge through her, making her feel invincible, as though she could conquer anything. But these extremes, although sometimes thrilling, were also incredibly draining. The constant fluctuations in mood left her feeling unsteady and uncertain of herself. Yet through it all, Catherine showed incredible resilience. She didn't allow the disorder to define her. She wasn't alone in this battle. Michael was by her side, supporting her the way she had supported him through his cancer fight. Their relationship had been tested in many ways, but maybe this time it wasn't going to last. And the same year, after 13 years of marriage, it was confirmed that Michael and Catherine had taken some time apart. Reports suggested that Catherine found it difficult to reconcile her personal pain with Michael's public confession about his cancer's cause. He had developed it before he even met her. The couple issued a statement that they were taking some time apart to evaluate and work on their marriage. They hadn't been photographed together in months, and both had taken solo vacations with their children, further fueling speculation. Both of their conditions had taken a toll on their marriage. So was that it? Was this the end of the perfect Disney couple of Hollywood? That was what everyone thought. Everything made sense. But what do you think? Let us know in the comments. And if you thought Catherine had it rough, wait until you see what Kim Basinger went through. Her story takes a turn no one expected. Click on the video to find out.